Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in daytime, talking about an Amagami Sister, chapter number 181. This chapter is titled 181st Knot, Tying Disguise Together, Deliberation. And before we sit down here and start talking about this chapter of manga that we are so happily sitting down here and talking about today, I need to quickly sit down and just talk to you guys real quickly about the problem that I've been having with doing this series. And mainly that stems from the fact of this was a series I probably should have started to begin with. I often on this YouTube channel like to cover manga that I liked and that are still ongoing, right? That's how I've done series like World Trigger, Kagurabachi, Oshinoko, and it even sprouts into some series like March and Crown that I'm currently doing now. Even though I wouldn't say I love that series, it's more of just like, I'm the only guy covering it, and also for the fact of, it's written by the person who wrote Oshinoko, so why may I not do that? And Amagami Sister is one of those series that sort of works in that. I read all of the volumes of it, and I was like, man, or I watched the anime first. I'm like, man, I really do like this. I waited for the season to end. I'm like, wow, that's actually really good. I did enjoy it. And eventually I'm like, you know what? There's a manga ongoing, and I don't have to wait for season 2 because I enjoyed it so much, and so let me do like I normally do and just read the manga. And you know what I did? I sat down and read the manga. There's a point there, the ups and downs, the Yahei and Yuna stuff is always like some nice high highs, and then whenever you see Asi in a chapter, it like starts to dip down, going to a low valley, then like maybe spike up, you see some of the other characters and like dip down again, but either way, by the time I wrapped up and caught up with the manga, I caught up on chapter number 179. And I'm like, man, I really am enjoying the series. It's in my brain right now. I'm going to keep thinking about it. So let me go and sit down and make a YouTube series on it. Let me cover it here on the channel. And of course, I did that for a good 5 weeks. And my rationale was, okay, hey, I am getting ready to leave college and go back home for the summer, so I should have a lot of free time at home. So how about this? Why don't I go ahead and start covering this series where the final arc, this Tying Disguise Together arc, begins at chapter number 176. I sit down, I get caught up on a backlog, and then do a weekly chapter review every single week. And you know what? To be fair, that was a very good idea for me at first, right? Granted, I did not anticipate how busy I was going to be this summer. I say this summer because, of course, it is currently August 8th of 2025, and I'm actually about to leave back for school here in a few days, so oops, would you look at that? And of course, I recorded the Amagami Sister, the first Amagami Sister video, chapter 178, on May 7th, which was the day I was leaving my school, right? So it's sort of like, well, that's a little weird there, right? But hey, like I said, we got the first video up on May 7th. It took about 9 days, let me get settled back in at home, but eventually I got into making the 177 video, and then, oh, would you look at that? It was about a week, made the 178. Oh, 4 days, we made 179, and our 4 days later, we made 180, and that was May 30th where we were then. And of course, if you think about it, oh, May 30th, well, there's the whole month of June, the whole month of July, and the few days of August. Yes, things did not plan out how I was planning to go this summer. I didn't have all the time in the world to make YouTube content like I thought I would. And because of that, it comes to the thing where currently I'm pretty sure the manga has like 191 chapters out now. And today I'm talking about 181. That's a 10 chapter difference. And I have started up other series on this channel, like covering the Link Click anime for season 2. And there, it was one of those things where, oh, hey, I made 2 videos in a series. I plan to get back to it eventually someday. But you know what? There's only 12 episodes of that season, and there only ever will be 12 episodes of that season. So actually, I'm not doing too bad there. I'm only 10 videos behind. But in the span of these, like, 2 months, a manga chapter comes out every single week. So whenever I get behind, I get very behind very quickly. And that is sort of what's happened with this series. But here is the silver lining. This week is the week in Japan where the Obon Festival is going on, which means that most of the traditional magazines take a break for a second and say, oh, hey, we're not going to be releasing any new chapters because we want to give our mangakas a good break for the holidays, which is definitely a really good thing to do. But what that also means is that I won't have any new manga to cover. And as I just mentioned, I am heading back to college. And you know what these two things mean? I head back to college a week before classes actually start, which means that I have a week where I'm doing things with friends and all of that. By all things considered, I am doing nothing. which means here for the next week, I'm going to try every single day to get one video out on this channel on the Amagami Sister series until we are caught up. And granted, it may still take some time. I mean, even if I make 7 videos in 1 week, we are still like 4 chapters behind where we need to be at the end of the day, right? But hey, that's what I'm planning on right now, to try to get caught up on this series. And I said in the very first video, I'm going to try to get caught up with this series so that at the time the story ends, I am there covering the final chapter on the day of. And I still want to do that because I've actually not read any of the chapters past 181 that I'm reviewing here today. So yeah, that's the goal we're sitting down here and doing with. If I'm not mistaken, it was announced that this series is ending in volume number 22, if I'm not mistaken, as the final volume of the series. And being that I'm pretty sure the chapters I'm reading right now are contained in volume number 21, if I'm not mistaken, that's not really so nice and foreboding for what. Actually, let me go check that here real quick. Let me open up the wiki, because yes, there is a wiki. If it is a manga series that has any sort of relevance, there is a wiki, which, I mean, I'm not complaining about, but let me go and find the volumes. You know what? Maybe this wiki is not a very good one, because it does not have the volumes anywhere. Okay, maybe this was a bad thing that I shouldn't have done. Okay then. But either way, I've talked enough about this series before I go and get started talking about the chapter, so let's do the thing you guys were all here for to begin with. Let's talk about this chapter of manga. Again, this is Tying Off an Amagami Sister chapter 181, Tying Disguise Together, Deliberation. And also, if you guys forgot what's happened, it's pretty much, hey, Uryu has taken his college entrance exam. He's getting into Kyoto U, or at least we all presume so. I mean, if he is not, we're all sort of like wrong in this series. But we sort of see he's sitting down, he's taking his entrance exam, and oh no, he then has to decide once it's all over, who is he wanting to marry? And it's just a little bit of a weird thing to where it's like, oh hey, would you look at this? We've got a chapter focusing on each of the 3 girls, and also just like focusing on Uryu's life in these moments, interacting with all of them, and we had some pretty good chapters. I really like the Yahei one about the planetarium and the stars, the Yuta one about visiting the grave and all the moments to come with that was very nice and emotional too, and then we had the Ashi one. It happened, I'm happy to just look past it and never think about it again, pretty much, right? But this chapter starts off with Uryu thinking about all of these moments, right? As we see, he's just sitting down, a piece of paper in front of him, and he's just writing down on a piece of paper all of his future plans and who he wants to marry and just figuring all of this out, right? And as we see it's currently nighttime whenever Uryu is sitting here, and slowly we fade to morning where Uryu's like, oh gosh, I stayed up all night. And it's like, oh gosh, what do I want my future of the sisters to be? I'm really glad to have time to really think over it. Now I don't have to worry about my exams, but that just leads me to thinking in all of these circles, right? As we just see Uryu sitting here, I love the imagery we get here of him just holding a steaming cup of coffee, the massive bags under his eyes. And he's just like, what am I doing here? Right? And he's like, hey, one thing's for sure, we can't just keep living on this forever. Things need to improve one way or the other by the time I start university, right? And he's like, but hey, this whole thing has really kept me thinking. I thought and thought and thought about it, and I came to only one conclusion. My feelings were there was ever only one choice. And of course, this is something that we've seen Uryu really been hammering on these past few chapters. Hey, you gotta remember, I only have one choice. There's only one option I can truly do here. And of course, Marcy Naito is just leaving us in suspense of oh man, what is Uryu going to choose? As if we already don't have a really good idea what he is going to choose, right? It's Yuna, by the way. That's what Uryu's going to choose, right? But as all this is happening, Uryu's like, alright, so that means that all there's left to figure out is how I can tell them my answer. And as he's doing this, of course, he is sitting out, overlooking the general shrine outside, sort of, sitting on, the house deck part of it. I'm not Japanese, I don't know what this, home feature is particularly titled. But as Uryu is sitting here, of course, his phone is sitting beside him, and all of a sudden, it goes off as he gets a text message, right? And we see this text message comes from none other than Shirahi, right? And she's like, hey, Uryu, I'm doing something today, and I want you to come, if you're free anyway. I know you are, right? So go ahead and come along with me, right? And pretty much Shirahi sends him that text, and we guess that Uryu just responds cool, what you doing, right? Because the next thing we see is Shirahi and Uryu walking up a mountain trail. We see that, they're climbing up, and Uryu is just wheezing and ugh, what am I doing here, right? I can't climb up this place anymore. As Shirahi's, like, making fun of him a little bit, saying, like, oh, wow, would you look at that? Like, I know exam season is over now, Uryu, but, like, you need to go out and get more exercise before college begins. Like, you're so pathetic. Like, I can't believe any of this. And, like, hey, it's so easy for me to beat you in academics and athletics. And Uryu's like, shut up. Like, I'm just exhausted because I stayed up all night, right? As, like, he is clearly, like, following behind Shirahi's, like, she's way further up this trail, right? And I love Shirahi's just, like, small little taunting, like, alright, excuses, right? But eventually, Uryu's like, hey, but, like, Shirahi, what's the big ideal anyway? Like, why are we paying a visit to the Dark God's Shrine? As we see, of course, there is the thing that says no entry, and I love how the two of them just, like, sort of go and walk past it and, like, bow in front of the main shrine itself. And, of course, this is the Kuragami Shrine. The Kodansha translators just translated to Dark God, so, like, I don't have an issue with that at all. It's just one of those weird things that they just do, right? And we see that Shirahi then goes and just answers Uryu's question, being like, well, I mean, you have to remember, the Dark God did do us a favor, right? So I figured that we should come thank them now that we're done with all of our exams. And Uryu's like, no, like, are you serious? Like, you want to thank the Dark God? Like, aren't you afraid after everything that happened to us? And Shirahi's like, I mean, actually, not at all. If it hadn't been for what happened with us, I wouldn't know you as half as well as I do now. And we see that Uryu has a little bit of a perplexed grin on his face. Not really a grin, just like a perplexed look. He's like, oh, Shirahi, right? As all of a sudden, we see that Uryu then joins Shirahi in bowing to the Dark God. And as the two of them bow, they start to be like, all right, we've sort of done all of our things here, and start to walk off. And Uryu's like, man, Shirahi, like, you have really changed a lot since you were a kid, right? And she's like, oh, like, have I now? And she's like, oh, what exactly about me has changed in your eyes? As Uryu just says, like, I mean, I guess you're sort of, like, more strong-willed now, and, like, I think you also let go of things easier, too. And, of course, Shirahi then just, like, comes with the classic, I mean, you broke my heart after all, right? And, of course, Uryu is like, oh, no, like, why did I have to stick my nose into places it did not belong there? Like, Uryu, you only have yourself to blame for what is transponding here. Like, you did not have to say any of that, but yet you chose to because that is the type of person you are, right? But as all of this happened, and Shirahi's just like, hey, I'm just teasing you, right? And you're just like, are you sure that did not sound like teasing to me, right? But she's like, hey, but like, either way, don't you think I've grown to be a great catch? Like, hey, the fish you threw back in a sea might just be the biggest one out of them all. As you just get, like, a full-page panel here, Shirahi just, like, sticking her two fingers up in the air, like, I guess it's her thumb and her pointer finger just, like, making sort of like a, whoa, let's go, right? And she's like, hey, I might be the biggest one in the sea, right? And Uryu just is like, oh, man, like, you definitely are a great catch after all, right? And eventually they start to walk away, and Shirahi's like, hey, thank you for coming with me today. As we see the Dark God, of course, Kuragami, is just sort of sitting there in the background, of course, on top of the shrine, looking at the two of them as they're walking away. And Shirahi just continues being like, hey, I'm really glad I was able to make this shrine visit here for you today. And he's like, yeah, anytime you want to hit me up, Shirahi, like, you know I'm not doing anything right now, so, like, I don't particularly care, right? And she's like, hey, but you know, wasn't that really incredible what happened to us back then? I mean, tying our destiny to that of a whole other world. I mean, you have to remember, the gods are pretty amazing. As we remember back to during that arc, whenever we were sitting there with Yomiko, and she was explaining the whole idea of what was happening, and like the whole idea of like, hey, when we say weaving destiny, we mean tying the threads of this world and a branch world together. The power of the gods is called tying the knot. As we just remember this moment, and we see that like Uryu sits down and actively remembers it here as well, right? And he's like, oh yeah, like tying the knot, huh? As Shirahi just says like, and I mean, you know when that happened, I was honestly really fortunate that you still had your memories, Uryu. And he's like, what do you mean, right? And she's like, I mean, you've got to remember, what I did to you, I was trying to improve my own life, but I basically ended up brainwashing yours. Maybe you keeping your memories was the Dark God's way of forcing me to realize the mistake I had made. As Uryu's like, I mean, it definitely could be, right? As Uryu then remembers to asking Yomiko in that same interaction from earlier, like, hey, why is it that I have my memories of the original world too? And Yomiko clearly saying like, hey, it's not the proper time for you to know that answer. And Uryu is just like internalizing all of this now here in a moment. He's like, wait a second, like, I wonder if that was entirely the Dark Gods doing, after all, maybe showing us that maybe Yomiko has all the answers all along. And here he's like, hey, like, what do you mean? And Uryu's like, oh, it's nothing, like, don't actually worry about it, right? And as we see the two of them end up splitting up later, we see that Uryu is walking back to the shrine, and we just see that he's thinking like, oh, like, it's not just what happened with Shirahi. There's a time I went to the past, and a time that Tabantha kept repeating itself, and the time that Yuna and me swapped bodies, and all the prophetic dreams as well. As he thinks like, wait a second, come think of it, thinking back to all the prophetic dreams, there's still a dream that hasn't come true yet. As we see that he makes it back to the Amagami Shrine, he just sort of walks in, and this legitimately threw me for a loop the first time I read it, because he walks in and says, hey, Asi, Yuna, Yahe. Like, that is the wrong way to call out those three names. It should be Yahe, Yuna, Asi. Like, you don't start with Asi and end with Yahe. You put the worst one last, which is Asi, and then, like, put Yuna in the middle like you always should, is the best one, right? But either way, he walks in and just says, like, hey, Yahe, Yuna, Asi, can I, like, talk to the three of you about something? And we see that, like, all of them are sort of, like, just in their Miko outfits, like, doing their various shrine duties. They're like, oh, hey, like, welcome back. Like, what's going on? Like, you look serious. Like, did something happen, right? And Uryu's like, hey, the amusement park. And the three girls are like, huh? Like, what? As Uryu's like, hey, let's all go to the amusement park together. And the three of them are like, what? Right? And I just love the moment as, like, as soon as they're all like, what do you mean? We then cut to that very weekend. Granted, we don't know the day of the week they are currently in. Like, that could have been a Monday for all things considered. They had to wait, like, 4 days to do this. Or it could have been, like, a Wednesday, and it's, like, a 2-day break. Or, God forbid, a Friday, and they do it tomorrow, right? But either way, we then cut to that weekend when, of course, they are all entering an amusement park, right? And we also see that there are a few other people here besides for the Amagami sisters, and of course, we see that the three best friends are here as well. We see Karin, oh gosh, I haven't had to break out my reference sheet in a good while. Let me find it here. Alright, here we go. It's Makoto, Omi-chan, and Karin are the three that also are here, right? As we see Karin's like, oh my gosh, like an amusement park, like how childish is all of this, right? Makoto's just says like, hey, like, you still say that, but look who came along with us, pretty much, right? And also we see that Omi-chan's like, oh, but it's like a pretty darn perfect day for a graduation party, pretty much, right? And of course, we see that the girls are here too. Yahe's like, oh man, like, the more the merrier, hee hee hee. The whole idea is that Yuna's like, hey, like, I'm glad we also invited all of these other people as well. And we then get a 2-page spread where we see, of course, Uryu standing in the middle and the 3 groups of girls sitting on either side of him, pretty much, right? As, of course, thank you, Aussie, for bringing the obvious thing to note. She's like, oh yeah, but, like, doesn't this really look like a harem manga to you? Great. Like, I love whenever characters are so, like, self-aware and looking at this in the manga. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this. But either way, that's what Aussie says right here. And everybody's like looking over at Uryu as he's got his eyes closed. Wow, would you believe that, right? But either way, we see Omi-chan's like, oh, and wasn't this all like Kamahachi's idea to begin with? And I have to say, this panel with Omi-chan looks really, really weird because her word bubble, wherever she says this, is up above her head, which ends up covering up the hair dongo, or like the hair ball that she normally has above her head. And like we see it very, very clearly, just the singular one here on the 2-page spread. But just the way it's covered up, it's honestly just a little funny to be like, huh, that's a little weird there, right? I think Karin's like, oh man, maybe wanted it to turn out this way all along. Yeah, I don't like both of you two, right? But either way, Uryu's like, hey, it had legitimately nothing to do with it. Like, everyone here just had somebody else they wanted to bring, right? And we sort of get here, and Yuna's like, oh yeah, but it does remind me of there's that one time when he said he wanted to go to the amusement park in his sleep. And of course, she messed up a little bit here, because all of the other girls, like, turn around like, in his sleep? What are you talking about, right? And of course, I'm pretty sure this was sometime during Yuna's, no, it was during the Kuragami Shrine initial arc, whenever they went there, and it was the whole idea of, like, Yuna was, like, not very happy, and she was like disappointed because Yomiko was not willing to teach them all of the various stuff. And through some events, Uryu ended up falling asleep on her shoulder. I'm pretty sure that's where this happened. I know somewhere in the manga, maybe if I would have been like actively thinking about this manga and covering it for the past 2 months, I would have actively remembered this, or God forbid, made this video whenever it was still fresher in my mind and not months later, pretty much, right? But either way, we get this whole idea where everybody's like, oh, like, what is that, you Chan? Like, care to explain yourself? Like, hey, you may sound like you and Uryu are sleeping together. Like, you know what you've been talking about and all that various stuff. And you're just like, hey, like, don't get the wrong idea, right? Of course, we know the right idea, but of course, all these characters in the universe have no absolute idea, right? But as all of this is really just going on, there's eventually this whole idea where they're all just bickering. And Uryu's just like, hey, well, wait a second. There was this dream I had in one of the prophetic dreams that hadn't come true yet. As we remember, of course, I think this was from the second round of prophetic dreams that Uryu had, not during the first one in Volume 5, wherever, like, Uryu and, was searching out for Yahei, and then, like, oh, he started to fall down the stairs and all that other various stuff. It didn't happen during that round, but I think it happened during the next round whenever they were heading to Kuragami Shrine and doing all of that various stuff, right? As it was the whole idea of Uryu taking all of the girls to the amusement park, right? As we just get more narration from Uryu's perspective, he's just like, hey, these prophetic dreams were the first of many paranormal experiences, and even now, I can't explain them. I'm not sure if they're the work of gods or what particularly they are, but there has to be some explanation for why things like this keep happening to me. That goes double if these phenomena really do tell our future, right? And as Uryu's just sitting down here and thinking about all of this, we eventually see that Makoto's just like, oh, like, wait a second, Uryu, did, like, you seriously not think about a person to invite yourself, right? And, of course, Asahi and Yahei are just like, hey, Makoto, like, don't you go there. We know Uryu doesn't actually have any friends to ask along with him, right? And Uryu's like, oh, come on, like, I actually asked and invited somebody here today as well. And they're like, wait a second, like, you did? Like, who would that be? As we just get more narration from Uryu, he's like, hey, and if there's anybody who would have those answers, who might know any of it, as we just see that somebody walks up and just is like, oh, hey, look at this. I'm a little embarrassed to be the odd older person out, but thank you so very much for inviting me, Uryu. As Uryu's narration just finishes saying, oh, and it would be her. As we see Uryu's like, oh, hey, I'm really glad you're able to make it, Yomiko. And that's where we end this chapter with this whole big thing of we may be finally getting some answers to the bigger mystery going on here. And of course, this is like legitimately a little bit of a big deal. Because of course, like, hey, Yomiko, this entire series, has been very cryptic, very mysterious. Like, we know that she has something going on and involving with the general story of, like, this entire time. She's known what has been happening, but it's been sort of, like, subtly manipulating all of these things in her way. And of course, Marcy and I did a really good job in this chapter, like, setting up all of the previous evidence that we already had. Of course, tying it in with all the Dark God, Kuragami Shrine stuff with Shirahi, and just reminding us of all the times, like, hey, Uryu has kept his memories during all of these events. So whenever they went and saw Yomiko and she explained all of that, Yomiko told him it wasn't time for him to know all of those things there in the moment. And this is really just making Uryu question all of these things, and now when everybody is here together, maybe he can get a straight answer out of her. I thought this was a very, very good chapter, and yeah, it really makes me interested to know what happens next time, to, like, get all of these mysteries figured out, being that we are in the end of the series. So, I thought this was just, like, strictly a very good chapter. Like, you can't really go wrong with it, and those are really all of my final thoughts. I really don't have too much else to say about this chapter besides, hey, come back tomorrow. I'm not promising anything, but there's a pretty good chance we may be covering the next chapter of this series. It's going to be really bad if it's now, like, another 3 or 4 months and I just, like, don't do anything, but I guess we just gotta wait and find out. But if you did enjoy this video, well, lucky enough for you, as I mentioned earlier, I've covered this series 5 other times on the channel so far, so there'll be a playlist link down in the description box of this video and also on the end card of this video. And as I mentioned, I cover plenty of other anime and manga related content, so, like, hey, I know this is a series that runs in a weekly shonen magazine, but hey, if you guys like reading stuff in Jump or hearing somebody talk about things in Jump, then you guys are in luck because I cover a lot of things in Weekly Shonen Jump as well. But yeah, really follow that out of the way. I will catch you guys next time for Tying Knot of an Amagami Sister, chapter number 182. Again, this was chapter number 81, titled 81st Knot, Tying Disguise Together, The Liberation, and I will catch you guys next time. This would be Glowplasma, signing out. And just reminding you all, Yuna is the best. I'll catch you guys next time.